Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 262. Without any delay, start explanation. Jiang Wuyue had his brows in a tight furrow. Is that so? But I feel perfectly fine. The way I felt it, my defenses were clearly up. How could it be weakened? Tang Wulin shrugged. I don't know about that. Nevertheless, it's a grave problem. It's insignificant in the battle network, but if something in your body goes wrong while you're fighting an abyssal creature, then that would be disastrous. It's a matter of life and death. Why don't we go in again so that you can feel the changes in your defenses carefully? Jiang Wuyue nodded immediately. He said with slight nervousness, okay, let's try again. This time, go slow, don't be in a rush to attack me. They both re-entered the competition stage. When Jiang Wuyue hammered his own chest with his giant hammer, he felt his defenses and his battle armor's defensive powers were in place. The anxiety in his eyes immediately vanished. There's nothing wrong. My defenses are normal. See, the force of that strike just now was at least thousands of kilograms. I don't feel anything wrong with my defenses. Ha, I told you I'm fine. Then again, I don't trust. A minute later. Tang. Wu. Lin. An exasperated Jiang Wuyue looked at Tang Wulin, who emerged from behind him. No, it's your spear that's acting strange. Your strength is odd as well. This time my hammer clearly hit your golden dragon spear. Why did it bounce off immediately? It also left a deep mark on my hammer. My defensive powers mean nothing against your golden dragon spear. It's like cutting through butter with a hot knife. What's the matter? Tang Wulin blinked. He was just about to say something when Jiang Wuyue continued, don't tell me that you've no idea as well. I won't believe you even if you said so. You're a devious man. You must have known what happened from the very beginning. It's not a problem with the battle network, right? It's your abilities that have evolved. Although Jiang Wuyue was honest and frank, he was not dumb to be able to reach his current status. After a few tries, especially when he had focused his attention, he realized that he had been duped by Tang Wulin. This man had known what was happening from the beginning all along, but he had tricked him into being the target practice time and again. However, he was also greatly shocked. With his defensive powers which were already at its peak among the ranks of Soul Emperors, Tang Wulin's attacking powers had rendered his defenses utterly useless. Even Soul Saints or ordinary Soul Duluos could not do that. It was especially true for the sudden kill in their first match. Even if he had underestimated him, his attacking powers would have had to be highly potent for him to pull that off. Jiang Wuyue was unable to comprehend all this, but the truth was laid in front of his very eyes. Tang Wulin said with a helpless expression, I didn't. I really have no idea what happened. I did have some breakthrough, but I don't understand why it made that much of a difference. You must have weakened, right? Don't give me that crap. My soul power vortex has already formed, and it'll most certainly turn into a soul core in the future. How could I possibly have grown weaker, said Jiang Wuyue angrily. Tang Wulin's expression changed immediately as he said smugly, then it's me who's become stronger. You don't have to maintain that tough facade. You can just admit that you're afraid of me. There's no shame in that. It's all right. I won't discriminate against you. We can still be friends. Who says I'm afraid? I wasn't afraid. I was merely unfamiliar with your abilities after your transformation. Jiang Wuyue retorted angrily. Huh? You don't even dare to fight me, and still, you say that you aren't scared? We've fought a few times now. You must be used to me by now, right? Are you still brave enough to come at me again? Tang Wulin's nose was high in the air. Bring it on. Let's see who's afraid after this. You're paying. Okay. Tang Wulin agreed without hesitation. They re-entered the competition stage again. 2 minutes later. A light flashed, and Jiang Wuyue staggered out of it. An expression of fright flashed across his face. Tang Wulin walked out after him and declared smugly. Told you that you can't. This, my friend, is the difference between us. As he scoffed at Jiang Wuyue, he pointed at the muscles on his arms. Impossible. I refuse to believe this. Again. Another 2 minutes later. Again. Yet another 2 minutes later. Enough. A defeated Jiang Wuyue looked at Tang Wulin before him. If the first time had been a mistake, and the second had been carelessness, what would 3 times or 5 times be? Would that still be considered a mistake? This fellow was simply a monster. Whether it was his strength, agility, attacks or defenses, everything about him was in the superlative. His golden dragon spear did not look like a heavy weapon no matter how one looked at it. Still, Tang Wulin managed to parry his giant hammers even in a head-on collision. The defenses which Jiang Wuyue took pride in did not pose a problem to Tang Wulin. The moment Tang Wulin had an opportunity, Jiang Wuyue's body would be immediately impaled. What was even more terrifying was Tang Wulin's spear's consciousness. When his spear's consciousness was unleashed, Jiang Wuyue would immediately feel a chill running down his spine, as if the chilly air flowed through his body which was being hollowed by the spear. When faced with such an opponent, despite Jiang Wuyue's high battle spirits, the feeling of defeat remained. If they continued battling, Jiang Wuyue's confidence would be completely shattered. He did not want to continue fighting Tang Wulin. Wuyue, you all right? Tang Wulin came to his side with a face full of concern. Go away. Jiang Wuyue panted. It was not easy for him to recover from the pain he felt. Tang Wulin sighed, I didn't know that it'll turn out like this. Have I grown so strong? Wuyue, I'm sorry. I know that an overly huge difference between our skills will make you feel inferior, but I didn't plan for it that way. It's all right, don't feel inferior. Continue to put in more effort. Who's feeling inferior? You're the one who's feeling inferior. Jiang Wuyue's short temper could not be restrained. Tang Wulin shrugged. You don't even have the guts to continue. If that's not feeling inferior, what is? Who says I don't have the guts? Jiang Wuyue's eyes bulged. In the next instant, his gaze turned calm suddenly. He scoffed and said, I know what you're doing. I won't take the bait again. You're a sly one. You're trying to prod me into fighting you again with your snide remarks. I won't be a fool this time. Tang Wulin shrugged. Whatever you say. I want to give you a chance to redeem your self-esteem by not using my battle armor in the next match. Since you're reluctant to continue, forget it then. Let's go out. Wait. Do you mean it? About you not using your battle armor? Jiang Wuyue pulled at Tang Wulin. Of course, said Tang Wulin earnestly. I've to give you a chance to redeem your self-esteem. Forget it. Seems like you aren't interested at all. I should save myself the pain of being clobbered by you. Don't. Wulin, you're a good person. Come, come. Let's have another match. This time, I'll pay. They re-entered the competition stage and stood opposite each other. Tang Wulin had a faint smile on his face. Jiang Wuyue looked at him with keen sparkling eyes. You gave your word. You can't use your battle armor. Of course. Tang Wulin nodded toward him. 3, 2, 1, begin. With the prompt from the electronic voice, Jiang Wuyue unleashed his martial soul and battle armor once more and raised his strength to the maximum. As Tang Wulin looked at him, he could not help but muse inwardly. If it had been any other opponent, he would definitely not have prodded them into continuing the fight, although he needed powerful opponents to have a measure of his current strength. However, Jiang Wuyue was different. He had the most formidable battle spirit among all the people Tang Wulin had met. Besides, he was simple-minded. He had a better psyche than most people. He truly fought braver the more he lost. As expected, Tang Wulin did not unleash his battle armor. He held his golden dragon spear by his side. For golden soul rings arose from beneath his feet which circled around him. The first golden soul ring shone. It was his impressive golden dragon body. Golden scales covered his entire body. Although it did not enhance him as much as his battle armor, the scales on his body emanated a faint whitish glow. He tapped lightly on the ground with the tips of his toes. He was still able to unleash the golden dragon flies even without his wings. The faint silhouettes of wings flickered behind him. In the blink of an eye, Tang Wulin was already in front of Jiang Wuyue. He slashed upward with the golden dragon spear in his hands and aimed it at Jiang Wuyue's pair of hammers. After the metallic clanging, the situation was clearly different. This was expected as Tang Wulin had not donned his armor, whereas his opponent, Jiang Wuyue, wore two-word battle armor and was physically powerful. Jiang Wuyue's hammers were slightly raised by the impact, but they were not blown away. However, at that very moment, Tang Wulin suddenly bellowed furiously with his golden dragon roar. A giant golden dragon's head materialized, with a diameter of more than 5 meters. It let out a furious howl at Jiang Wuyue at close range. Jiang Wuyue felt the sound wave hit him with terrifying force. The roar tossed his body backward, knocking him senseless. His very bloodline was heavily suppressed. Tang Wulin floated in midair. The golden dragon spear in his hands burst forth with a dazzling incandescent white glow. He thrust his spear, and his spear's consciousness condensed into a 30-meter-long spear of light which reached Jiang Wuyue instantly. Jiang Wuyue lived up to his name as an expert of the same rank. When his battle armor was under attack, he activated his protective barrier reflexively, and the stimulus also brought him back to his senses. He instinctively crossed his hammers in front of his chest, shielding himself. Boom! The whitish golden spear's gleam penetrated the first war hammer and pushed his second hammer so hard that it smashed into his chest. The impact shook Jiang Wuyue so much that his vision darkened. His battle armor's defenses were nearly breached. Shortly after, Tang Wulin shook his spear. With an excited roar, a giant golden dragon leaped into the sky and caught up to Jiang Wuyue instantly, striking him from the front. Jiang Wuyue's body was sent flying and his soul skill was shattered. With a flash, Tang Wulin's rose to the skies instantly. Countless brilliant, golden blue-silver emperor vines surged out like a swarm of bees. He pointed forward with his golden dragon spear and the vines shone with the same glow. It was as if there were hundreds of golden dragon spears stabbing Jiang Wuyue's body all over. The golden dragon impaling array. Jiang Wuyue felt as if he had crashed onto a wall of nails. His entire body stiffened and countless bloody wounds were cut into him. Shortly after, Tang Wulin swiped with his golden dragon spear. The golden glow around him reached the height of its brilliance. It was his golden dragon rage domain. The only difference was, since they were opponents, the domain covered Jiang Wuyue and had a suppressing effect on him. The golden dragon spear in his hand suddenly shot out countless beams of light. Every beam seemed to be accompanied by a blade of blue-silver grass. Hundreds of these beams converged into one instantly. The whitish golden spear's gleam suddenly intensified, and the entire competition stage was enveloped in its radiance. He then forcefully thrust downward. In Jiang Wuyue's perception, the air around him seemed to have transformed into the spear's consciousness. When the hundreds of spears merged into one, the process seemed to have compressed the air until it was only 1/100th of its original volume. The sound of bones cracking came out of his body during this compression. When the spear stabbed at him, he felt as if his entire being was impaled. Not only his body, but even his soul felt like it was being pierced. Pa! Jiang Wuyue was nailed to the ground. The white spear of light suddenly exploded and blasted his body into a fine powder. The 1,000 accusing fingers. Tang Wulin was overcome with joy. Although he was still unable to materialize that much spear's consciousness with a solider form, he had the help of his blue-silver emperor. He could finally unleash a portion of the 1,000 accusing fingers' powers. This was also the closest he had come to launching the 1,000 accusing fingers in battle. Although it was still some leagues away from the complete 1,000 accusing fingers, at least he had learned what it was like. Days of spearing practice and the formation of his soul core had finally given him a huge boost. Also, with the completion of his soul core, the complementing yin and yang effects of the two cores had greatly reduced his consumption of energy when he used his blood-soul fusion skill. Before this, he could only use his blood-soul fusion skill up to 3 times, but after the completion of his soul core, he could already use it 10 times if not more. When Tang Wulin came to the outside of the competition grounds, what he saw was Jiang Wuyue standing there with a blank expression. He seemed to be out of sorts. Tang Wulin was anxious. The 1,000 accusing fingers would affect one's spiritual powers as well. He hoped that Jiang Wuyue's soul was not damaged by this. If it was, he would be in a lot of trouble. Fortunately, the Star Do Battle Network protected its users to a high degree. After a moment, Jiang Wuyue's body started trembling. As he shook harder, his spirit seemed to return to him, as evident in his eyes. Jiang Wuyue staggered and sat on the ground with a thump. He then started panting heavily, his eyes filled with fright. How's this possible? How's this possible? He had lost completely. He had been completely suppressed by Tang Wulin's explosive attacks from the beginning right until the end. Although Tang Wulin did not attack him with blood-soul fusion skills alone, his martial soul and bloodline had merged due to the effects of the yin-yang vortex. Thus, his martial soul and bloodline would reinforce what the other was lacking. Although his rank 65 soul power was only that of a soul emperor, it was not far below Jiang Wuyue's. He could also suppress Huan Wuyue's bloodline. With the addition of the terrifying powers of his blood-soul fusion skills, even with his battle armor on, Jiang Wuyue was still met with a terrible defeat. This was definitely something Jiang Wuyue had not foreseen. However, the truth was right there before him. He had no choice but to believe it. Wuyue, you all right? Tang Wulin asked, concerned. This time, he was genuinely worried. I don't want to talk to you. Jiang Wuyue's expression showed that he was speechless. Tang Wulin sat down beside him. Pressure can also be motivational. A spring is soft, but the more you press it, the harder it'll bounce back. You have exceptional talents, and fighting me is in itself unfair to you. Our bloodlines are too closely related and your bloodline is greatly suppressed by mine. Actually, the disparity between our power isn't that great. This time, he was genuinely trying to comfort him. Even he knew not to overdo it. Go away, said Jiang Wuyue pointedly. No matter what you say, I won't fight you anymore. I'll have to go back and think carefully about all this. I can't accept this. There must be something that I've overlooked. As he said this, he got to his feet and walked out. Watching him leave, Tang Wulin scratched his head. He reckoned that it would be difficult for them to spar together again. However, he really should not make him his opponent anymore. After his few sparring sessions with Jiang Wuyue, Tang Wulin fully understood his own current condition. His soul core was complete. After the 2 great energy cores formed the complementing yin-yang vortex, his overall strength had improved by leaps and bounds. He could even stand a chance against a 3-word battle armor master. Since he could not use Wuyue anymore, he had to find a substitute. There were still a few days before the next match. He disconnected from the Star Do Battle Network. Tang Wulin sat cross-legged and meditated to process and absorb the experience of actual combat. However, because Jiang Wuyue had not put him under too much pressure, the benefits he had obtained from the fight were quite minimal. At most, he had gained a clearer understanding of himself. As expected, having a soul core made a difference. What he had to do next with the time he had was figure out how to harmonize his various abilities and completely unleash all of his combat strength. His soul power cultivation base had been raised to rank 65 in a short time. With the addition of his 2 great soul cores, it was enough to cause a change in him. Settling down and gathering himself would be his approach for the time being. When Tang Wulin awoke from his meditation, it was already the morning of the 2nd day. His blood god bracelet rang with the ringtone of a soul communicator. Hello, Blood One. Come over to my place. Your rank is ready. Rank? Colonel? In an instant, Tang Wulin's heart was ablaze. When he thought about the possibility of being a colonel, he was overjoyed at the surprise. He had only been there for a few months. The facts had proven that it was the right decision to come here. Not only had his cultivation base substantially improved, but he was also being promoted to colonel. He could be regarded as a mid-level military officer already. He came to the Blood God Battalion. Tang Wulin noticed with astonishment that Blood 1 was not the only one present. From Blood 1 to Blood 9, all great 9 Blood Gods of the Blood God Battalion were present. "Good morning, senior officers." Tang Wulin stood at attention and saluted. Blood 1 looked at him with a stern expression and said, "As per your request, and after verification and discussion by the army, it has been decided that you will be conferred the rank of colonel as the reward for your accumulated merit points and the recent life baptism. The Blood God Battalion supernumerary personnel, Tang Wulin, come forward." "Yes, sir." Tang Wulin strode toward Blood 1, and Blood 3 came up with a tray. There were 2 impressive insignias on the tray's red cloth. 2 bars and 3 stars flickered with a brilliant golden glow. Every young man dreamed of being a soldier. Soldiers who had no ambitions of becoming generals were not good soldiers. In their youth, everyone had dreams of becoming a general one day. Tang Wulin was no exception. When he saw the 2 bars and 3 stars presented before him, he could not stop a dash of excitement from appearing on his face. Blood 1 changed his military rank for him personally. The other 8 Blood Gods could not help but smile slightly. Blood 1 said, "Since your military rank has already surpassed that of a lieutenant colonel, from now on, you're promoted from Blood God Battalion supernumerary personnel to a preparatory member. Your next target will be him." As he said this, Blood 1 pointed at Blood 9. Outside of the 9 Blood Gods, a preparatory member is the highest status one can have, but the highest rank you can receive is that of a colonel. It's simple if you want to move up a rank. You'll just have to defeat a Blood God. With that, you can replace them and become an official member of the Blood God Battalion. Do you understand? Tang Wulin turned to look at Blood 9, who was also looking back at him. Blood 9 raised his eyebrows at him as the smile on his face thickened. Blood 9 had come from the Battle God Hall. Without question, he was a titled low-ranked expert and a 3-world battle armor master. The gap between them was still quite wide at the moment. However, what Tang Wulin thought about was that, with the improvement in his cultivation base, what he needed most right now was a powerful opponent. Only under pressure from a powerful opponent in actual combat would his cultivation base be brought out quicker. It was the only way he could maintain his fast-paced improvement. "I understand. Thank you, Senior Officer." "Senior Officer Blood 9, anytime that you're free, I would like to challenge you to a battle in the Star-Do Battle Network. This is because we can only fully unleash our strengths inside the battle network." "There'll be no need to hold back," Tang Wulin immediately said. Blood 6 could not help but laugh. "Wulin, you haven't learned to walk yet, but you want to run." Similar to Blood 1, he had come from the Tang sect and had naturally taken a liking to Tang Wulin. He meant to remind him not to reach for what was beyond his grasp. Tang Wulin put on a smile that said he would not hurt a fly. "I only want to see just how great the gap between Senior Official Officer Blood 9 and I is so that I can make him a goal I can reach for." Blood 9 said with a faint grin, "Sure. I'm free today. I'll spar with you later." He did not think much about what Tang Wulin had said. The clear difference between their cultivation bases had made him accept Tang Wulin's words completely. Blood 1 was the only one whose eyes looked excited. He was the one who had personally experienced the entire process of Tang Wulin condensing his soul core. The condensation of a soul core was the mark of a 7-ringed soul saint. Although Tang Wulin did not possess a soul saint-ranked soul power cultivation base yet, the density of his soul power far exceeded that of a normal soul master's. With the addition of his soul core, his actual strength was already equal to a soul saint's. When his golden dragon spear, the improvement of his battle armor with his saint craftsman skills and the existence of his bloodline power were factored in, he was definitely different from ordinary 2-word battle armor masters, even though he appeared to have a standard 2-word battle armor master's cultivation base. "All right, everyone, please go to the Star-Do Battle Network to witness this battle of theirs and give Tang Wulin some pointers," said Blood 1. Tang Wulin said, Senior Officer, I remember that there aren't any allocations for spectators for normal competitions, right? After he said this, the blood gods broke into laughter. Blood 3 said gently, we of the Blood God Battalion have our own special rights. We can watch any match. You don't have to worry about that. They had special rights? As expected of the Blood God Battalion, they were in another league altogether. Blood 1 looked toward Blood 9. Wulin isn't as simple as you think. Don't lose. Blood 9 was astonished. He laughed hysterically and said, Captain, don't scare me like that. I'll be very sad if I become a preparatory member. As he said this, he even cowered behind Blood 8 and made a terrified face. His antics made everyone break into laughter. Blood 2 glared at Blood 9. Since Big Brother has told you not to be careless, you better get a hold of yourself. You have been serving for long enough. Why are you still so flippant after all these years? Blood 9's expression turned peculiar. Got it. Tang Wulin looked at Blood 9, then at Blood 2. He suddenly noticed that they looked alike. Also, Blood 9 was clearly afraid of Blood 2. That was genuine fear that he showed. Blood 3 snickered. They are father and son, the two of them. Two blood gods from the same family. They are also a much-told tale in our Blood God Battalion. Tang Wulin was hit with a sudden realization. So that's why. In the Blood God Battalion, the number of people who came from the Battle God Hall numbered the most. There were 3 of them, with Blood 2 as the leader, Blood 8 and Blood 9. However, he never expected Blood 9 to be Blood 2's son. That was truly an interesting story. He was a title d'honneur himself, and he had nurtured his son until he achieved the same rank. That was not easy, but when he saw the fearful look on Blood 2's face when Blood 2 spoke to him, he reckoned that he must have endured a fair share of hardships throughout the process of his training and cultivation. Everyone will be busy later. Let's enter the battle network right now. Blood 1 had decided for everyone. Tang Wulin returned to his dorm. He felt slightly anxious but more excited. This was still his first time fighting head-on with a title d'honneur. Title d'honneurs were the most powerful beings who stood at the pinnacle of the Soul Master realm. He only hoped that the difference between Blood 9 and himself would not be too great. Otherwise, this sparring session would not mean much either. He entered the familiar battle network and logged in. Little Tang appeared within the battle network. Tang Wulin calmed himself down and felt the changes in his surroundings. He prepared his form so that he would be at his best. He had always thrived in competition-type settings. The more powerful his opponent was, the more it would stimulate him to do better. This was why, although he was about to face an unprecedentedly powerful opponent, he felt more and more excited with every passing minute. He was becoming even more ready. When he reached the stadium, he quickly located the others from the Blood God Battalion. The 9 blood gods had given themselves cute aliases. They were called Red 1 to Red 9, simply replacing the word blood with red. Tang Wulin could not help but felt slightly speechless at this. However, this was good as well, as it was easier for him to remember. Red 9 walked up to little Tang and patted his shoulder. You must do your best, all right? As long as you can force me into using my battle armor, we'll count it as your victory. How does that sound? All right. Tang Wulin nodded in agreement without hesitation. Red 9 smiled with squinted eyes as he said, I heard that you've earned quite some merit points through forging. Why don't we make a little wager? This person had to be at least 30 years old, but he still acted as if his mental age was that of a child. Tang Wulin could not help but feel slightly speechless. Okay. How much? He agreed without hesitation. Giving himself a challenge would not be an issue. Red 9 gave it some thought and said, how about 10,000? It won't mean much if it's too little anyway. Hey, no bullying children. Red 8 came toward them from the side and twisted Red 9's ear. Oh. Little 8, be gentler. He's now a 2-word battle armor master and has a soul core. Isn't it enough for it to be his victory if he can force me into using my battle armor? Let us have some fun, it's not every day we get to do something exciting. Humph. Blood 8 glared at him, exasperated that he would not live up to her expectations. Blood 9 smiled flatteringly and said, if I win, you'll get half the amount of the wager. If I lose, you won't have to pay half a point. That should be enough for you, right? At this, Blood 8 smiled, that's more like it. Speak softer, don't let the captain and the others hear you. The edge of Tang Wulin's lips twitched. What kind of people were these? However, he was still very thankful to Blood 8. After all, she had saved his life before. Without Blood 8, he would not have been able to block the Abyssal Plane Monarch's attack. You may begin once you're ready, came Blood 1's voice. The Blood God Battalion had the responsibility of guarding the entire Abyssal Passage. Although the Abyssal Tide had just ended and there would be no danger of any powerful Abyssal creatures coming to attack them, they still had to stand guard. Blood 9 generously paid for the venue of their little match. The other 8 blood gods disappeared as each of their bodies flickered away. A glow flashed past. Tang Wulin and Blood 9 appeared on the competition stage and faced each other from afar. Tang Wulin took a deep breath and entered into his competitive state. His gaze immediately turned sharp. On the other hand, Blood 9 opposite him was still all smiles. 3, 2, 1, begin. Blood 9 curved a finger toward Tang Wulin, who quickly unleashed his own battle armor. His brilliant golden battle armor was unleashed and covered his entire body. Tang Wulin immediately rose to a height of 3 meters. He unfurled his golden dragon wings behind him and his aura intensified rashly. He held out his golden dragon spear before him. The spear was 4.5 meters long. The spear's blade burst forth with a whitish gold gleam. Blood 9's smile on his face was unchanged, but he was cautious. The circles of soul rings arose from under his feet to cover his entire body. 3 purples and 6 blacks. His 9 soul rings moved rhythmically up and down around his body. The immense pressure originating from a title d'allure was immediately felt. Tang Wulin swiped horizontally with his golden dragon spear. Blood 9, who stood opposite him, had a slight change of expression. It was because he felt the aura that he unleashed had been shattered by Tang Wulin's simple action. Later, he felt the scorching heat that came from Tang Wulin's body. It was not a scorching heat caused by a rise in temperature, but which came from his bloodline aura. For golden soul rings rose from beneath Tang Wulin's feet and moved rhythmically about him in a vertical manner. Tang Wulin's aura, on the other hand, intensified frenziedly. Especially shocking was his blood essence power, which suppressed Blood 9's blood essence until it trembled slightly. No wonder he caught Blood 1's eyes. He's really one of a kind. Blood 9 squinted his eyes slightly. His gaze started becoming cautious. His opponent was a title d'allure. Naturally, he would not attack him of his own accord. Tang Wulin understood that. He pointed forward with his golden dragon spear and charged toward Blood 9 quick as lightning. He retracted the wings behind him slightly. He did not use his skills the moment the battle began. Tang Wulin's pupils were already vertical by this time. His complementing yin-yang vortex swirled with full force under the effects of his dragon core and soul core. He had raised his cultivation base to the maximum. They were but 100 meters apart. He had crossed half the distance in an instant. When he was 30 meters away from his opponent, Tang Wulin tapped the ground with the tips of his toes and leaped upward. He pointed his golden dragon spear forward, which burst forth with a gleam. He flapped his dragon wings behind him and unleashed an explosive golden dragon flies. He broke through the sound barrier in an instant. An explosion sounded in the air and the whitish gold spear's gleam was already upon Blood 9. Lightning fast. It was the only description for the entire scene. It was not only the enhancement from his battle armor but from his skills as well. With his super powerful physique, the speed at which Tang Wulin operated was not inferior to a title d'allure. Blood 9 detected it beforehand and was prudent enough. When he saw that Tang Wulin was upon him, he activated his martial soul as well. A peculiar shaped weapon appeared in his hands. It was also a spear, but it was only equipped with a tip at one end. The blade was around a meter long and was shaped like a serpent which was split open at the tip. It was, amazingly, a snake spear. The 9 soul rings that had been circling around him instantly attached themselves onto the snake spear. The snake spear's blade pulsated with light and resembled a snake sticking out its tongue. He shook his wrist and his snake spear went to meet Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear. There was no release of the spear's gleam. The instant the snake spear was flicked, the surrounding air seemed to contort and bend Tang Wulin's spear's gleam. However, at this very moment, his spear's gleam displayed its powers. When it came into contact with the contorted space, the golden dragon spear's gleam seemed to be shaken for a moment. However, in the next moment, the spear's gleam remarkably pierced through the contorted space to reach Blood 9. Blood 9 raised his eyebrows. He swayed his body slightly and sidestepped the spear's gleam. The snake spear in his hands and Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear collided with each other. Amidst a crisp ring, the snake spear retracted as quickly as lightning. Tang Wulin felt a strange rotating force working on his golden dragon spear which was tugged to the side. Then, the snake spear reappeared instantly and was immediately upon Tang Wulin's chest. What a quick attacking speed! Was this the attacking speed of a title d'Or? However, the problem was that he did not manage to knock his golden dragon spear away at the first contact. Blood 9 was also in shock at this moment. After all, he had the cultivation base of a title d'Or, and his own strength was also of the same rank. Usually, if his opponent was a Soul Emperor, the contact just now would have been sufficient to disarm his opponent. However, when his snake spear collided with Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear, he felt that the golden dragon spear was heavy as a mountain. Besides, the sharpness of the spear's blade surprisingly sent a painful jolt through his snake spear. Although the golden dragon spear was deflected slightly, it still brazenly stabbed his shoulder. Upon evaluating his current situation, if he had followed through with his stabbing attack, his snake spear would have stabbed Tang Wulin's chest, but Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear would have hit his shoulder in turn. Blood 9 had watched videos of the golden dragon spear. The fact that the golden dragon spear could devour energy left a deep impression on him. In addition, Tang Wulin had the defenses of 2-word battle armor. It was not difficult for a title d'Or to break through a 2-word battle armor's defenses, but there would inevitably be a pause in his attack, even for just a brief moment. By that time, he would have been wounded already. Was it worth the risk? Since Blood 9 was a title d'Or facing off with a Soul Emperor, any injury inflicted by his opponent upon him would put him to shame. That was why he made a split-second decision. His snake spear drew an arc in the air and traveled past Tang Wulin's chest. It was aimed directly at Tang Wulin's right armpit. If this delayed attack of his were to land first, Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear's attack would naturally stop abruptly. However, at this very moment, Tang Wulin boldly reacted to the situation. His Dragon Moon battle armor instantly turned into a mirror-like texture. He made no attempt to evade. His golden dragon spear shook in his arms and a whitish gold spear's gleam shot forth powerfully and stabbed Blood 9's shoulder directly. A soul power shockwave immediately appeared on Blood 9's shoulder and transformed into a contorted halo. It forcibly refracted Tang Wulin's spear's gleam. Even so, the spear's gleam still managed to cut a thin line on his shoulder. Fortunately, he was not attacked by the actual golden dragon spear. His opponent would not be able to absorb his life energy. Who would have thought that a title d'Or would be injured during the first bout with a Soul Emperor? Simultaneously, the snake spear had stabbed Tang Wulin's armpit. Tang Wulin only had time to shift his body slightly. He did not attempt to dodge the attack, instead, he took the blow with his breastplate. Ding! The snake spear landed true and his 2-word battle armor's barrier was instantly shattered. His battle armor was dented, but at the same time, it flickered rapidly. Blood 9 thought that the battle had ended there and then, although Tang Wulin managed to injure him. Least of all, he never expected his snake spear to fail to pierce Tang Wulin's 2-word battle armor. How could this be possible? He had already unleashed his first soul skill to increase his snake spear's sharpness. At this very moment, Tang Wulin's right hand suddenly let go of his golden dragon spear. His left hand slashed at the snake spear with the golden dragon claw and his right hand swung directly at Blood 9. Golden Dragon Nirvana Claw. The huge golden dragon claw made a shocking appearance. Countless blue-silver emperor vines surged out like a swarm of bees and seemed to merge with the sharp claws from behind. Blood-Soul Fusion Skill. Hence, the precise name of this skill should be Blue Emperor Golden Dragon Nirvana Claw. The immense pressure and destructive aura made Blood 9's blood curdle even with his cultivation base. He felt a threat to his life at the same time the claw was unleashed. This is bad, this young man's attack is so powerful. The snake spear shook, and its third soul ring shone brightly. It was as if a giant python sprung out of the snake spear suddenly and mercilessly hit Tang Wulin's chest, which sent him reeling backward. Even so, the Blue Emperor Golden Dragon Nirvana Claw, which could cover 20 meters, still managed to reach Blood 9. This was one of Tang Wulin's most powerful attacks. It comprised of the Dusk Gold Dreadclaw Bear's right claw soul bone, his Golden Dragon King bloodline, battle armor, the Golden Dragon 9 moves, and his Blood-Soul Fusion skill. This attack had the equivalent destructive powers of a title d'Allure. Although Blood 9 sent Tang Wulin flying and spitting out blood in midair, he had to face an attack that he could not run away from. Blood 9 made a frightening conclusion. He realized he would not be able to block the attack if he did not use his battle armor. However, how could it be possible? After all, he was not Jiang Wuyue. His body transformed almost as soon as he made the realization. His grey battle armor instantly appeared on his body, and he retracted his snake spear. At the moment he extended his wings behind him, a grey halo was released. Blood 9 fell from the sky. He was suppressed so heavily that he fell to the ground. Although his face was concealed by his mask, his expression was that of fright. He never thought that he would be in a passive position while facing a Soul Emperor. How is this possible? He was only a 6-ring Soul Emperor. He even declared that it would be his loss if he was forced to unleash his battle armor. In any case, he never expected himself to lose. However, the truth was laid before him. Even with his 3-word battle armor's powers, he was still affected by the immense force and fell to the ground despite being able to fend off his opponent's attack. It was simply unbelievable. Just how terrifying and great his power must have been for him to pull this off. Tang Wulin was not in high spirits either. His chest felt tight. Although his battle armor had blocked most of the impact, it was still an attack from a title d'Allure. 2 types of soul power, a positive and a negative, came from the snake spear. They swirled furiously as they tunneled into his body. His battle armor had absorbed 80% of the impact, but even the remaining 20% was enough to make him feel as if his internal organs were on fire. Fortunately, his complementing yin-yang vortex swirled swiftly enough to mitigate these 2 destructive energies. As expected, title duos were truly extraordinary. Currently, each of the 8 blood gods who were watching from the side of the competition stage had different expressions. The one who was most shocked was none other than Blood 8. They had exchanged blows once, only once. Blood 9 had just lost the wager. How is this possible? When did he grow so strong? She was the one who brought Tang Wulin to the Blood God Battalion. Although Tang Wulin had played an important role in combating the abyssal creatures, he could not possibly be compared to the Blood Gods. That was the situation just a few days ago. Surprisingly, he had managed to escape unscathed after exchanging a blow with Blood 9 and had forced him to unleash his 3-word battle armor. Nobody believed what just transpired before their very eyes. However, the truth was right there in front of them. Blood 1 had a faint smile on his face. As expected, this young fellow was truly extraordinary. The claw he unleashed just now was definitely not a simple soul skill. Tang Wulin drew a deep breath and suppressed his wounds. At the same time, his eyes focused. The situation after this would undoubtedly be more difficult because he would be facing a 3-word battle armor master. Blood 9's expression soured. It was embarrassing. Other than feeling shocked, he was deeply upset. The 8 blood gods from Blood 1 to Blood 8 were watching this battle. He was especially mindful of his father who would be watching this battle closely. Before the match started, he even made a wager with Tang Wulin in all sincerity and seriousness. He had wanted to take the opportunity to earn some merit points. However, who would have expected him to lose the wager after exchanging just one blow? According to their agreement, he had already lost the battle. The thing is, how can this young fellow possibly be so powerful? Unlike him, currently, Tang Wulin's eyes were burning. He was filled with a determination to fight. His golden dragon spear had returned to his grasp long ago. His dented dragon moon battle armor slowly returned to normal. Although it was only a two-word battle armor, it was forged out of spirit alloys made from 4 types of metals. Whether it was its offensive, defensive, or self-healing powers, it was far superior to ordinary two-word battle armor. Tang Wulin pointed his golden dragon spear to the front and let out a skyward roar. He extended his wings behind him, flapped it strongly once, and he was already in the air. The golden dragon flies. A ferocious dragon's roar was heard when he rose into the air, as if there was a giant golden dragon circling him. Within the body of the golden dragon, the blue-silver emperor vine solidified. Seemingly in an instant, it had raised Tang Wulin's imposing figure to its peak. Blood 9 snorted. He pointed forward with his snake spear in the direction of Tang Wulin. His 6th soul ring shone again, and the giant python's illusory shadow reappeared. A dazzling glow burst forth from the snake spear. At the same time, a 3-word battle armor domain formed by countless giant pythons were projected under him. The halo spread out and covered an exceptionally wide area. At the moment, Tang Wulin's body displayed some changes whereby he had unleashed more skills. A golden halo suddenly spread out under him. It was the impressive Golden Dragon Rage domain. The two domains collided with each other. Blood 9's battle armor domain seemed to have been turned golden in an instant. The area covered by the domain and its intensity were related to the user's cultivation base. Nevertheless, there were also differences between the domains. One such difference was their respective ranks. Without a doubt, Tang Wulin's Golden Dragon Rage domain's rank far surpassed that of Blood 9's debilitating domain, which was an added feature of his battle armor. That was why when their domains clashed, despite Blood 9's cultivation base which had an absolute advantage, his domain did not have the upper hand. Tang Wulin's body slowed down a little. Similarly, Blood 9 was also affected by the Golden Dragon Rage domain. His aura was evidently being suppressed. At this very moment, a fierce dragon's roar was unleashed by Tang Wulin as he flew swiftly in the air. The giant golden dragon's head, formed by the blue-silver emperor vines, suddenly enlarged. At the same time, it became more robust. A deafening roar which brought a peerless, dense blood essence shockwave was brazenly released. Even Blood 9, who had a title Doluor's cultivation base, had his spirit shaken for an instant. His entire bloodline was obviously suppressed amidst the furious howl. The illusory, giant python's shadow behind him was especially affected, and immensely so. To his surprise, the illusory shadow crumbled instantly. Blood 9's 6th soul skill was abruptly interrupted by Tang Wulin. The giant dragon's head which let out the furious howl shook suddenly. Seemingly breaking out from its shell, the giant golden dragon solidified completely and charged toward Blood 9 the moment his 6th soul skill crumbled. It appeared that Tang Wulin launched a series of consecutive attacks. Actually, he had launched 3 Blood Soul fusion skills in the following order: the Blue Emperor Golden Dragon Flies, the Blue Emperor Golden Dragon Roar, and the Blue Emperor Golden Dragon Soars to the Heavens. How could he possibly hold back when he was fighting a title Doluor? Blood 9 reacted instantly. His dispersed 6th soul skill had left him speechless, but his 3-word battle armor responded to the impact. His extravagant battle armor burst forth with a layer of crystalline grey, light barrier which blocked off the golden dragon soars to the heavens impact. At the same time, he flicked upward with his snake spear which burst forth with thousands of beams of light. He did not utilize any soul skills but merely used his combat skills. Under the enhancement of his 3-word battle armor, his domineering soul power had quickly elevated his cultivation base to the rank of a title Doluor. Even without his soul skills, he was still a title Doluor ranked expert. The absolute difference in their cultivation bases was plainly manifested at this moment. The heavily enhanced Blue Emperor Golden Dragon soars to the heaven was shattered by the snake spear. The remaining shockwave created small ripples on the outer layer of the three-word battle armor's protective barrier. Nonetheless, Blood 9 still staggered backward from the powerful impact. Tang Wulin could take pride in accomplishing this when faced with a three-word battle armor master. His soul power was only at rank 65. Even with the addition of his two-word battle armor, his combat strength was still far short of a title d'Orlors. However, he managed to send a title d'Orlors ranked three-word battle armor expert staggering backward. If word of this got out, nobody would have believed it. His snake spear was stable, and his defenses were impregnable. Currently, Blood 9 had already calmed down, and he faced his opponent gravely. His snake spear shone with light and his third soul skill reappeared. A giant python charged forward in the direction of the crumbling golden dragon soars to the heaven. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.